Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Purna Talks. So far, we have learned on how do we think in a critical manner using the acronym called critical, and how do we effectively perform the goals using 3M methodologies, and how do we create the effective writing using a 5R technologies, and how do we perform the effective reading comprehensions using SQ 5R technology, and how do we uh, perform the proper data classifications using the technology technique called latch. And today we are going to discuss about how do we perform the problem solving in an effective manner. So before that, let us first understand what do you mean by the problem. So one must need to understand that there is a difference between issue to the incident to the problem. So there is a some kind of a damage or some kind of an issue happens. You already know why the issue happens, so you don't need to do investigation. So that is a, and for that you just need to provide the fix. So that is an issue, or you just need to provide some kind of workaround or provide a solution to that incident. But whenever there is a situations where you need some kind of a investigation, you got a incident or you got some kind of an issue where you have not sure why that issue or incident happened, then that is where you also have to implement the investigation. Okay, so you would really like to understand why the issue has occurred in the first place. So whenever there is a investigation that needs to take in place for any kind of a damage or any kind of an issue or any kind of a incident, then that is where we can call it as a problem. So what I would like to mention here is one must not confuse with the issue or incident to the problem. Problem is much more bigger than the incident. A problem is somehow tagged to your thinking process or your investigation. See, in the personally also, the characters of every person will be determined by how the person solving that problem, how he's having the problem solving approach in his mind. So the character of the person will typically be based upon how he's going to tackle that problem. So I think it is in that way, it is very vital for us to understand uh, the effective ways of problem solving. Okay, so be it in a personal or professional, or be it in a psychological, or be it in the relationships or in the financials, you will encounter many problems throughout your life cycle. So if you can have that a perfect problem management framework, then most of the times it will be very much effective to deal that time to time. And the problems are kind of a in the disguise form of opportunities to build up yourselves and can bring up the best in out of you if you really understand and making your problem management or problem solving technique as a second nature to you. So if you can go to this problem solving technologies, if you can research into the online, you will have multiple options, multiple huge data that you will encounter, right? You can have a huge data that you can see related to the problem management techniques. But if you can see this problem management is also nothing but kind of a when thinking a kind of a structured thinking process. We can also call it as a kind of a critical thinking process. So if you can see my first video, I have come up with the critical. Okay, the critical, how do we what are the various parts that we have in the critical thinking process, and how do we effectively put into the A3 sheet. So in that way, problem thinking is almost similar, because problem thinking is nothing but a kind of a critical thinking that you need to adapt whenever there is such kind of a scenario comes where you need to investigate. Okay, after investigation, nothing but you need to apply the critical thinking on top of the normal thinking. So what are the various steps of the problems? Okay, like the first and foremost that you need to understand is that you cannot just treat any scenario as a problem. You need to really specialize the problem being a problem with a proper understandings that it is a problem, right? That's the reason you need to know the definition of the problem. So when you are encountering multiple scenarios, you really need to selectively identify that the scenario is a problematic scenario. Okay, so you need to understand the definition of the problems first. So that is called the define the problem. So always in your mind, you have to have that approach that okay, you cannot take everything as a problem. You need to selectively pick that scenario that should be eligible as a problem. Then you always give a special scope for the problems management and the problem areas. So once you identify this or once you define the problems, the next thing that you need to do is to understand identification of the problem. Let's say you encountered there is some kind of a problem like your application is crashed. Let us think that the application that you have been using is crashed and it is causing some kind of an impact your things. So the first thing that what you need to understand is the proper identification of the problems, right? The proper identification of problems in the sense, in what area. For example, if you really wanted to understand the solution of the problem or root cause of the problem, if you do not properly identify the problems or if you do not properly categorize the problem, okay, you will end up determining the wrong solutions, which is going to give you a lot of time wasting process, right? Again, you cannot go back and start again. It will give you a lot of demotivation. So to avoid that one, you always have to first categorize the problems, right? The nature of the problem, or it's also called identify the problems and in what category this problem belongs to. For example, your application is something like crashed. You would need to first understand the application crash is because of your underlying infrastructure, or is because of application itself, or is because of the network, or any kind of user related authentication or authorization, such kind of areas that you would need to first identify. So once you have this identification, you would need to then create a impact analysis of the problem. Okay, so you first understand you have to define the problem, and the second category is something like you need to identify the problems. Okay, and then come to some kind of a certain category to ensure that your focus is streamlined, and then you would need to create a impact analysis of the problem. This impact analysis in the sense, you need to first understand what is the impact of these problems, right? Like impact analysis in the sense, how much critical that the problem that needs to be solved. Okay, so let's say for example you have 5 or 6 problems. What is the priority of these problems? So the priority is defined by the uh, uh, the urgency. Okay, the urgency and the impact. Okay, so the priority is equal to the urgency followed by or multiplied by the impact. So if your impact is very high and if your urgency is very urgent, then the priority is very high. So in that way, there is always a priority matrix that you can check it. So in that way, you will perform the impact analysis and understand the priority of the problem that you picked it. And you will also understand the stakeholders, how they are getting impacted by this problem, so that when you derive the solutions, you will have a better chance to cross check with those stakeholders and understand whether the problem is solved or not. In that way, your impact analysis is always helpful. And the third process within that, in the second stage, is all about imagine the outcome. Okay, imagine the outcome is in the sense, once you understand that there is a problem, and once you categorize that the problem or perform the problem category or properly identified, and once you perform the impact analysis and understand the impact of the problem, then the thing that you need to do is to understand how do you wanted to see the solution. Okay, what is the solution that you want to see that problem? So that is also called imagine the outcome. Okay, it's also called as setting the objectives of the problem. Okay, so once you set the objectives, then you will understand that okay, then you have set the objectives. Okay, you got a problem, and you got a problem and you categorize the problem, and you have also prioritized the problem, and now you have set the objectives of the problem. Now you, with that stage, you have typically come to some kind of a problem dynamics. You have all kinds of a problem peripherals that you could able to create around the problem. Now, if you want to jump into the problem, now if you, jump into the real problem, the third stage, that what you need to do is perform the root cause analysis of the problem. See, again, here you will have a many options if you want to perform the root cause analysis. That root cause analysis, I would say, it's kind of a thinking process. Your thinking process has to start literally in this third stage, which is root cause analysis. So in the market, we do have multiple options that is derived. Okay, we have a 5 why technologies. Okay, 5 times you have to pose your why, so that you will go to the deep dive process and understand what exactly the real problem that is causing, because you will have a multiple effect causes and you have multiple effects, but mostly the one effect is caused by another effect. So if you deploy these 5 why techniques, you would be ending up the most important and the origin effect will derive the origin effect. So that is where you would need to apply these countermeasures onto the main effect that is caused the other sub effects, right? So that's the reason it's always important for us to use this kind of a deep dive technologies using 5 why techniques. So based upon the nature of the problems, you can also utilize the other tools that we have in the market, right? So you have the deep owner thinking methodologies. Like, for example, if there is a diversification, if you are not able to categorize effectively to the one specific area, and you see that there is a lot of diversity in that problem, then you can apply the deep owner thinking 6 hat methods. Okay. Similarly, you can also put some kind of a cause and effect related exercise. You can even draw a kind of a diagrams and derive the relationship between. You can use the mind maps. Okay, so whatever you use based upon the problems, okay, so based upon the nature of the problems, you can deploy a certain kind of a methodologies and derive the uh, root cause analysis and specific to and deep dive to further to get to the exact cause that is that is actually causing the other sub causes. So at the end of the root cause, you would get so you got a root cause of this using some kind of methodologies. So with that, you are going to the countermeasures. Okay, so you found out the root cause, and now you also kind of applying the antidote to the root cause, that is called countermeasures. Okay, so let's say one main root cause can have multiple countermeasures. Okay, so the countermeasures in the sense, like, if you apply this or perform these countermeasures, that cause would be eliminated, the cause would be eliminated, or the effects from that cause would be eliminated. Okay, so there will be some different countermeasures that will be developed. So you can say that one cause could have a multiple countermeasures, and you can also say that one countermeasures can have multiple action items. So in one way, in the countermeasure sections, okay, in the countermeasure sections, you will see, yes, multiple countermeasures, and each countermeasure multiple action items. So in that way, you are actually creating a one kind of a project where you can deal all these countermeasures as a project methodologies, right? So you have multiple countermeasures and sub action items. Uh, so in that way, you are actually having a good to-do list that you have as a part of countermeasures and action items issues list. So how do so in that, once you determine these action items, you can have a priority list. So you have multiple methodologies that you can effectively perform the prioritization of those action items. And then once action items that you perform based upon certain methodologies, okay, once you complete it, the final stage is that reviewing the problem. Okay, the review. So once action items completed, and see whether the problem that you discussed is eliminated completely, or whether they're having any kind of a effects that you have problem. Then if you still have those problems, then you would need to repeat this cycle, and then come back to the different countermeasures, and in that way you would need to running this cycle until the real problem is completely eliminated. So I would like to quickly show my screen and show whatever I have explained so far? Okay, so you can see my screen, correct? So this is what I have explained. Okay, for example, in the define, the first thing that you need to understand is that you need to uh, first understand the definition of the problems. Then only you are very precious to the problem scenarios, and then you would need to identification or categorize the problems so that you will not go into the different solutions. You would need to understand the impact analysis, and you would also need to have the you need to imagine the outcome, or you need to set the objectives of the goals. So with this, you have got the dynamics of the problem, and then you entering into the main heart of the problem, which is finding out the root cause analysis. So you would deploy a multiple options here, multiple methodologies here to perform the root cause that is based upon the problem that you have. And then as part of the root cause, you will come up with a very nice summary of the main cause that we have. And then you apply the countermeasures, and then you define the countermeasures. So one root cause could have a 2 to 3 countermeasures, more than one countermeasures, and each countermeasures can have multiple action items. So this countermeasures and action item is nothing but a change management, which will be dealt using the project methodologies, using the using the project, or you can use the priority matrix or a Kanban roadmap, whatever, to ensure that you effectively deal those change management activities. So once that is done, you would reviewing the problems and understand the problem that we discussed is completely eliminated. So, and then you final stage is that once review is completed, then you have to document and ensure that the problem that you solved it is completely documented, and whether it is having a very good feedback or kind of a lessons learned for the overall system in picture. Okay, like like for example, you have learned, you have solved the problem for the very specific issue, but you would also need to understand that when you implement and to correct that issue, whether it is having a kind of a good effects to the overall system. So you always have to think in the system point of view. Okay. So I would like to give you a quick tool set that can cater the needs of each and every phase. For example, you can see the problem prioritization, right? So I said the problem prioritization in the sense like understand the impact. So we have multiple options that we have. We can do the impact analysis. Okay, so uh, it actually depends on what kind of problems that you have, right? So you will be we need to give it to you to analyze, like y-axis is impact and x-axis is kind of a urgency. So based upon that, you would come back with a very high or medium. So in that way, you would always have to prioritize the problems that you have. Then only you can be able to give the proper priority, and can eliminate the unnecessary things and can focus on what is important things. Because always, as you remember a Pareto principle, you always have to ensure that the 20% of the problems are more effective, and 80% of problems can be somehow can put into the side or can be delegated, and some can be ignored. And similarly, you can see in the root cause analysis sections, we can use this kind of a problem tree analysis, where you can you can put this problem here, and you can see this root causes. You can write a root causes, and you can see the effects. So you have a multiple effects here, but this all effects are kind of appearing outside, but underlying effect could be a real genuine, which we need to find it out and apply the countermeasures for that. You can also apply this. So you can also use this 5 by methodologies. Like you observe the problem, and you keep deep diving, keep deep diving until you find out the real root cause. So in that way, you would actually come to a real root cause when you keep digging further into 5 why times. Okay, this is one kind of tool that we can use And you can also use this fishbone diagram where you see that cause and effects, right? So you can see the main cause and then root cause, main cause, root cause. You can see the main cause, and then the root causes, the main causes and root causes, and finally the in that way you will be understanding the cause and effect diagrams. So this is the fishbone diagrams. So in the similar way, you can also use this 5 Y and 1 H. We can also call it as 5 wives and 1 husband technology, where you can effectively question yourself, questioning with different 5 Y scenarios, and come back with some kind of a stories on this. Uh, see, in a similar way, you can also use this deboner thinking. We have 6 hat thinking methods. It's very interesting. Like if you see the white hat is something that you are only focusing on the data part, that's like a white coat, and then black hat, you are kind of a judging like a judge, and the red hat, you are kind of giving a lot of putting a lot of emotions for that particular point of time. Yellow hat, on that particular point of time, you derive positive things, and then green hat, on that point of time you can be able to give us a kind of a creativity thoughts for the same scenario, and the blue hat is kind of a overviewing all kinds of hats. Okay, so for example, some kind of scenarios where you really need to classify, okay, or derive various inputs, then this kind of a thinking hats could be useful time to time. So what are all these tools is actually part of root cause analysis. Similarly, once root cause analysis is done, with you have come up with a nice summary, and then you would need to apply the countermeasures. As I said, one countermeasures can have multiple action items. So, let's say if you have three, four countermeasures, you will have around 10 action items. And based upon countermeasures and action item sections, you would derive the nice project summary, and you can utilize some kind of a Kanban board, or some kind of a Moscow techniques, or kind of prioritization templates, to ensure that all those, what are those top 10 or top 5 prioritized action items, and can finish it up and see that the countermeasures is fulfilled. So in that way you will cross check whether the problem that you encountered is somehow eliminated, or whether it is still there, okay, based upon the review system. So you do have a lot of tools also to perform the effective or constructive feedback as part of the review. So you can also research on what kind of tool that will be useful for the as part of review things. Uh, so in that way, there is a lot of tools that it is available in the market. So the most important thing that we need to understand is the backbone of the problem solving technologies. So once you understand, and once you go through the entire backbone of the problems, then it will be very easy to pick up the tools and understand the purpose of each and every tool. So it will be very interesting for you also. So in the sum it up, I would like to emphasize that the problem is always a precious. You can just think that it is the kind of a opportunity in a disguise form for you to develop yourself. And as I said in the beginning, uh, if you look the problem in a positive aspect, these are kind of opportunities to uplift you and to improve your career. So the ones people's or persons characters will be based upon how he take the how he or she purview these problems, and the roadmap of the problem. So I would like in that way, in this at this moment, I would wish you all the best, and improve the uh, analysis whenever there is a problem that comes to you. So all the best, and I would talk to you with with the next tip next time. Till then, thank you very much, and talk to you.